In the frontal transverse hip disassociation strength series level 3 exercise, you're now going to be doing something very similar to what you did in level 2 of frontal transverse hip disassociation, except for we're going to add an additional component of difficulty. Matt, you can rest. So this exercise is for advanced exercisers, and you would not be here doing this exercise if you haven't had a lot of progression through biomechanical optimization exercise already. So with that being said, let's get into this very difficult exercise there for people that are really good stability or developed really good stability and really know how to disassociate hip motion, which is what this exercise is all about. Disassociate hip motion from lumbar motion and pelvic motion. With that being said, here's what we want to do very quickly. Foot straight, no excessive pronation or supination. Little adjustments for balance is fine. Keep the arch. Patella tendon directly in line with the second and third toe. Acetabulum or hip joint directly as much in alignment with the patella tendon as you possibly can get it. Pelvis throughout all of this exercise, let's take a sagittal plane view, is going to stay neutral. So as you see, Matt's belt line is perfectly level right now. It's not anteriorly tilted forward or backward posteriorly tilted. It's totally level. He's going to keep that. We can turn back to the camera. You can rest for a moment. He's going to keep that position neutral for the entire exercise, and so will you, of course. So then, actually, let's turn this way one more time. When he bends over, let's just give us a simple kind of go into the motion, even kind of take out the hip rotation over here. So as Matt goes into it, he's going to keep this spinal alignment, slight lordotic curve, which is like this curvature here, very slight, minimal, almost nothing, thoracic curve in the kyphotic position. So mostly just want this straight and ear in line with the middle of the shoulder. Let's come back and face the camera. So we're going to keep all that while we're doing this frontal transverse hip disassociation. Now you remember, from level 2, because this is really built off of level 2. So let's show them what level 2 is really quickly, just one rep. Just go all the way down into it. So level 2 was where we're turning as we come in. We're bringing the hip into internal rotation as we're going into hip flexion. And as we come up into hip extension, we're going into hip external rotation on the support side. Good, rest for just a moment, can stay turned out. So now from level 2, we're adding one additional component, and that is the floating leg is going to be going into internal, external rotation the whole time he's executing what was being done in level 2. So starting with the pelvis, those arrows that point out from the ASIS, the anterior superior iliac spine. So we're going to point those arrows not forward with the foot, but we're going to take those arrows and point them out laterally towards the left. We're going to lift this foot. This is going to become the floating leg. And as we go into that motion, notice that Matt's left leg is going into internal and external rotation while he's keeping the pelvis neutral, while he's keeping that foot in the right position, while he's keeping the right patella aligned with the second and third toe. He's rotating the pelvis in, right, from the hip, by the hip going into internal rotation. Now he's bringing the hip into external rotation as it comes into an extension. So one more time, and in simple terms. So we're bending this joint, bringing that joint closer towards the spine as we use the hip to internally rotate. Good. And he's keeping that floating leg, go ahead, and he's keeping that floating leg rotating the whole time as he comes back up into the motion. And ideally you would do your reps consecutively, whatever your prescription calls for, do your reps consecutively without putting this foot down. Now if you need a rest for a moment to keep proper alignment, you can do that for a 5-second period. If you need to go more than that, you're kind of done with that set. And you might start this exercise seriously with like 2 or 3 reps at a time. It might not be 8 reps or 10 reps. You might start with like 2 or 3, and that's totally okay.